Chapter 2. Philosophy versus itself, a comedy of errors and dialectics. In this chapter, we venture into a curious paradox. Philosophy, that noble endeavor of the intellect, appears to have a long-standing habit of fighting with itself. Indeed, the history of philosophy might as well be subtitled, How to Make Your Own Job Redundant. To begin, let us acknowledge a peculiar observation. Philosophy either exists in two mutually exclusive forms, or it seems determined to undermine its own foundations. This is not exactly breaking news. Kant already noted that what he called transcendental idealism was not so much a grand innovation, but a necessary reaction to the dialectical gymnastics of metaphysical realism. In other words, philosophy has always been engaged in a sort of self-imposed existential crisis. It is the discipline that builds castles in the air only to criticize their architecture. Wittgenstein, ever the therapist of unruly concepts, might put it differently. Philosophy is a kind of language therapy. But let's be honest, what sort of therapist spends more time diagnosing their own neuroses than treating others? However, the real question isn't whether philosophy contradicts itself. Of course it does. How else would it stay employed? The true scandal, if we may call it that, is the suspicion that this entire idealist venture had been running long before Kant arrived to give it a respectable name. The post-Kantians, never ones to leave a mystery unprobed, suspected that the idealist step in philosophy wasn't just a revelatory moment, but a systematic process, a grand exercise in exposing how philosophy itself manufactures the very illusions it later claims to dispel. Now, if you were hoping for a clear historical timeline, perhaps a well-defined turning point where philosophy went rogue, prepare for disappointment. Kant, in his ever-so-patient manner, reminds us that the rational mind's tendency to universalize itself does not depend on a specific moment in history. The impulse to systematize, to explain reality in its most efficient, cost-effective manner, is baked into reason itself. Whether it emerges in the dialogues of Plato or the meticulous syllogisms of medieval scholasticism, the story remains the same. Philosophy creates conceptual frameworks, and then, to its great horror, realizes it must dismantle them. So here we are, facing yet another instance of philosophy at war with itself. On one side, we have the philosopher-technicians, dutifully translating the world into the clean, crisp language of scientific models. On the other, those who resist, who insist on philosophy as a reflection on life itself, a reclamation of experience from the bureaucratic grip of formulas and technical jargon. And thus, we arrive at the ultimate irony. Philosophy, in its most authentic form, is forever doomed to fight its own ghost. It radicalizes thought only to expose the illusions generated by, well, thought itself. It is the discipline that never rests, for every victory is but another step towards self-sabotage. In short, philosophy is like a cat chasing its own tail. Only the cat is self-aware, deeply critical of tail-chasing as a concept, and prone to existential despair. But, as always, we chase on.